Mark's not here either. Can we wait, Irene?
Sure.
Should we go ahead? Let me go ahead and get us started. Ready, Mike? Okay. I call to order the budget work session of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Tarpon Springs on Thursday, August 8th, 2024 at 6:30 PM. Roll call, please.
Mayor Vaticius,
Here.
Commissioner Kulyas,
Here.
Commissioner Eisner,
Here.
Mr. Kulianis is here. He'll be here shortly. Commissioner DiDonato.
Here.
Now, for the record, the city manager and Commissioner Kulianis are temporarily detained. We were delayed because of another meeting at 5:30, just ran a couple of minutes over. Mr. Herring, I know you can get started without the city manager, or should we wait? What's the commission want to do?
Go ahead and go.
Want to wait?
I'm good. I'm good to go. I don't care.
Wait? Yeah.
Either
okay,
way.
We'll wait, we'll wait. Scott, you have the city manager's phone number, right? Could you just jingle him and, thank you. Here's Commissioner Kulianis. Commissioner Kulianis, we've already began the meeting. We're just waiting for the city manager to show up. There he is.
Apologize for my tardiness.
Ready, Mark? Yeah. Okay, we're all here. I turn it over to you.
Ron, do you want to start out where we left off and where we're starting up and what we're doing tonight?
Okay, sure. Good evening, Mayor Commissioners. Ron Herring, Finance Director. This is will be the third budget workshop for the fiscal year 2025 proposed budget. First, just wanted to go over some items that were asked about at the last meeting on July 30th, 2024. It was brought up about a marina depression slab, and that has been fixed. On the fireboat cover, we're going to fund that this fiscal year 2024, and I think Scott's the fire chief is looking into that now. Sidewalk priority list, I sent that out to the board, I believe, yesterday. CRA capital value, the mayor was asking for that at the last meeting. I sent that to him. On-call pay, that's being evaluated. List of CIP funded and unfunded projects, that's going to be in an upcoming discussion tonight on this budget workshop. Sponge Docks Pump Station to be discussed at a future special session. Fixing the light poles at Spring Bayou. We're working with a lighting company for replacements. Christmas decorations, we're upcoming meeting with the vendor on the Christmas lights. And the salaries and reorgs are going to be brought before the board on August 20th. And down at the bottom, it was asked for the debt service schedule. So at the top, you'll see the general government funds. We've got 2 fire trucks they were 5-year leases, and the payments going out from 2025, 26, 27, and 28. And down below, the enterprise funds is the water and sewer fund. The water plant bond issue, which matures 2042, with the annual principal and interest payments listed there. And those are the items from the last meeting that were asked about. So I'll leave it there. I don't know if you have any questions on this slide before we go to the CIP.
Anything?
No?
Mike?
No. Oh, actually, Mr. Herring, how much is this, the roof that's going to go over the boat for the fire department?
I've heard a number, I think, I'm sorry?
What are we allocating for that?
I've heard it's between maybe 8,000 and 9,000.
Okay.
Commissioner Donato, anything? Okay. I'd like to get, I really want to pin down, and I don't want to wait, even if we don't have the answer, as far as the Sponge Docks pump station, to decide what we're going to do with it. I mean, that's another one where there's a lot of criticism that because we're not addressing flooding, a lot of these bad things are happening, which I think most people recognize that they're acts of God. Certainly, this is going to help one, as I stated before, one little aspect of flooding down there. It's not going to cover the situation where the tide goes over the top of the seawall, as we had this past weekend, and it doesn't help when it's low tide because the water's going to run out anyway. The only time it's going to help is when it rains and it's a king tide, keeping the check valve closed and the rainwater has nowhere to go, then the pump will activate and pump it over the top of the seawall. So for that little tidbit, we're going to, in that minor, excursion in terms of things that can happen down there, we're going to be paying over $4 million. And I guess the question is, on this, what we're waiting for is whether we're going to get the additional $3 million so it would not be coming out of the city's pocket. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. But even then, I want to make sure that the commission and also the residents understand exactly what this thing is going to do so that when bad things continue to happen down there, they don't come back and start complaining that the commission spent $4.5 million and did nothing to fix the flooding problem down there. So go ahead, Commissioner Eisner.
So there is one more avenue that you left out was, so far, I don't believe we have a check valve that is working 100%. That is because on high tide, when it's not coming over the top, it's leaking through the check valve and coming through the sewers backwards to,
It still comes up.
still comes in. So and would I be correct in that, Bob, that you don't have a check valve correct right now? So on high tides, the water does come into the street, even if it isn't raining.
So we know that those are functioning, but there is some issue, I think, with the Hope Street one that we're having to reevaluate. But it does slow it down. So by the time the tide comes back out, usually we don't have that backup in the street like we used to have before. So I will say, yes, you're partly correct, but it is also working.
So then the two things that it will correct is rain while it's high tide and also high tide without rain.
Yeah.
That's,
And then there is your concept as well that you've
which
talked
is
about.
the inline pumps, yes.
So I don't know how the commission feels about it, but I really, City Manager LaCourse, what do you want to do? You got a
Mayor,
smile on
the
your face.
last straw was the other night when I watched the news report. And it was a very short one, but it told people how we were working on this project to stop what happened in this past storm and showing our flooded street. We've got a project going that's going to stop that from
Who said
happening.
that? One of the
The news
interviewers?
report. No, the news reporter doing the news report.
Tampa Bay.
That's my last straw. And after I said that, we're bringing this thing forward sooner. They don't even know it yet. I haven't even told them,
Thank
but
you.
seeing that last night was my last straw. I don't want to wait for that money. We need to get it out there because I've said from the start of this thing with a whole nother commission and mayor, these people, this is not going to solve these. This is my help a little, but it's not going to solve it. So he's knowing now we're going to try to bring this discussion, and it'll probably be a meeting, and hopefully, before I have to turn it over to that poor man that's taking my place, this issue, doing it. I want to try to bring it forward as soon as to discuss these, even as we're waiting for them. And I don't want to wait anymore, and I want to bring those discussions in. So I'm going to try to get it when we get the consultant, we can get people here as fast as I can put on, I'd hope for at least the second meeting of September if I can. I may not get there with what I got to get, but it'll come as soon as I can
Before
get
the new city manager gets here,
well,
hopefully.
he's going to have to, that's what I'm going to try, but at least get it on the agenda because that was my last straw, seeing everybody, seeing the news report, they got something going on that's going to solve all these pictures of all this water in the street and stuff. I said, okay, I've had enough of this project. Yes, we are going to bring it to the soonest commission that we can to have a big discussion of everything involved in the issues and where we need to go, money or no money. So that is going to happen.
I guess, that's good. I appreciate that. Thank you. Is there anything else on that one? Okay. The other question I had was on the CRA capital value. I thank you for providing that information. It's probably something that we could have discussed this evening, but I don't think I think the commission needs the information. I really want to talk about it. So, City Manager, of course, we might want to have just a separate agenda item. I don't know whether we would do it during a CRA meeting or whether we would do it, not a budget meeting, but during a regular session, so we can all come up to speed as far as what the CRA assets are. And then also there's the depreciation, the amortized depreciation, is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. I'm not sure if I got the word right. I'm an engineer, I'm not an accountant. But anyway, I'd like for Commissioner Kulianis to have a chance to look at all of that as well. Actually, there's a couple of surprises on there that I don't quite understand, and that I'll talk to you about separately. But so if we can have an agenda item on that. You've got to fix the lights at the Spring Bayou.
It's already in process of
Okay.
of working
all
with a
right.
lighting
Thank you.
company.
Yeah,
I am on that, Mayor.
I've been asked about that a couple of times, so, okay. That's all I'll have on that section. You too, Commissioner, Vice Mayor Kulianis.
Are we talking about our capital improvement projects? And I just wanted to ask about the Craig Park Seawall Phase 1. I know we were, as a board,
Are you ready to talk
No,
about
I'm
that
sorry.
part, or is that a
Yeah, we're
separate?
not, we're coming to that right now.
okay, sure.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so second item to discuss.
Second item. Well, I thought it was important to go back and look at this current year, the capital projects we've had ongoing the past year that are ongoing or completed. I thought it was important to list them. We've got about roughly 25 capital projects, starting with Pint Gross at 4.6 million and going down to, I won't go through all of them, the annual sidewalks at 225,000. So we've got a little over $29 million worth of capital projects been going on the last year. And I was telling the city manager the other day, I think this is, twice as many or more than I've seen in an annual basis, but I'm sure because of ARPA and all that, we've just got a lot of projects going on. And I sort of feel for Bob and stuff, but I know he's busy and trying to manage all these projects. But I just thought it was important to, all the projects that are going on this fiscal year. Then I was getting into the capital projects that are funded, either fiscal year 2025 through fiscal year 2027. They are funded. We got the fire station 70, 6.2 million. Library improvements, 1 million. There's 500,000 as a grant. Discovery Park Playground, 650,000. Renovate the old Cops and Kids building, 1.6 million. Orange Street, 990,000. River and Bayou dredging, 1 million. Sponge Docks Pumping Station, we've got almost 4.2 million set aside currently for that. And then Craig Park Seawall Phase 1 construction, almost 3.6 million we've got funded for that. I don't know if you want to stop on that slide, or I can go on to the next slide is unfunded capital.
Yeah, so let's stop here and see if there's any questions on any of these ones that are funded.
Yes, I'd like to ask about the Craig Park Seawall. I see we still have the design in process. I know we as a board wanted to see some type of activity start, but using the ARPA funds, we had to complete it within a certain amount of time, which we knew would be difficult. So where are we on that, you think,
Yeah.
Bob?
So we're about 60% on the design and the permitting. We just submitted, or we'll be submitting this week, the cultural resource assessment survey they asked us to do. And it looks like we're okay with that. We just need to get it approved. Bottom line is I think we're going to get this thing out to bid by the end of this calendar year. So we should be in construction by the spring of next year.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's great. And as far with this tropical storm that came through, I just curiosity, how did the South Spring Boulevard intersection work out being newly constructed?
I think it worked out pretty good. I didn't hear reports about the intersection flooding, and the areas that would normally flood are the areas that we didn't improve on, that weren't part of that project.
But we do have questions about what did flood. So the issue, I don't want anybody to think, oh, we're happy because the intersection didn't flood and we're did good. There are also, and there's other causes because everybody got to remember how unique this storm is, and everywhere it's unique. But we need to make sure that the areas that did flooded, because the first thing everybody's going to say is you raised that up and flooded everything else. So we either got to dispel that. We've got to go in and see if there's the next step that we have to do, and we have to analyze that. So while it did, there are still questions that arise. Now, right there along Spring on the water and stuff going on, unless you have seawall block, that's going to do anything. That's nothing to do with the intersection. But the area right in front of Pineapple and the front part, the pictures of and stuff, we got to really look at that and see, is it just the abnormal storm, the fact that the retention of the water by the ball fields filled up completely and came back this way? We need to look at that stuff and see. We are happy the roadway did what it was going to do, but we still got to ensure that didn't do anything else. So I don't want anybody to think we're happy and we're leaving that issue. We are still in depth studying. And the one good thing about the storm, if you want to go to the good side, is we've got a bunch there, and we were out there taking pictures of all of our problem areas throughout the time. And I know Tom and people are out there with any area that we've had issues with citizens or anything with in the last 3 years. We are out there, Cameron, acknowledging, because this was a big one to show where it goes. Now, there may not be anything in those areas that a storm such as this would, nothing feasible to do. But we're looking at each one, not just that one at Spring, but we're looking at all of our trouble areas and some new ones that cropped up, the Alter 19 situation. Not new because we know it's flooded before, but with some of the work we did, it was a process. And for that one, we immediately had 3 pumps out there. People I saw on Facebook, they're not bringing pumps, they're not doing anything. We immediately had 3 pumps out there trying to pump, but there wasn't many places to pump that water too because everybody's water and stuff. But we are using this, our stormwater division and our project administration are using this to continue to address all of our areas and stuff. And we're still going to work on the MLK and the Spring one to make sure we're not displacing any of the water.
Anything else?
As far as Orange Street, how are we looking about potentially design completion and potentially starting it?
So the preliminary design work we did a whole bunch of alternatives, analysis and feasibility and cost for different alternatives. We presented that to the board, I think it was more than a year ago. It's ready to come back anytime. I know it's kind of been set on the back burner because of funding and trying to allocate that. But what we would need is approval from the board on which alternative to select to move into design phase.
And let's move to Ron to talk about the funding that you talked about, because that's really the issue. Ron?
For Orange Street?
Yeah.
Yes.
Currently, we got it funded in the penny fund.
When?
Well, we've got it in 2026.
26.
Another option to also fund it out of the CRA, if that's chosen to fund portion of it, the CRA portion out of the CRA, which there is money available there now.
That would just be something to consider. I know that's, been a project from even the boards before us, and I just think it's important because it is downtown. It's all connects together, and there is a lot of activity that's going through there these next 4 years. So maybe if, during all the events that happen, but maybe if this board can come to a point where we can see it as an agenda item, just to have it scheduled and for future boards, I think that would be a great step.
We'll bring it in the near future. We'll bring where we are and what we got and reminder. We'll bring that to the upcoming board meeting.
All right, thank you. I have no further questions at this time.
Commissioner Eisner, you're still at it. Vice Mayor Cleo, you're
I'm done.
Commissioner
Thank you,
Eisner.
Mayor.
So I did want to speak on a report as far as the MLK area was the bridge was the only place that did not have water. There was water on both sides. From the other side of the bridge on the MLK, all the way around, pretty much until Gulf was completely underwater. I mean, you could get as far as the church, and that was it. And you still ran through water. Going the other way, Spring Street was flooded MLK itself had a little bit on it. You couldn't get around the Kremer Bayou, you couldn't get around the Whitcomb Bayou, you couldn't get through Spring Street, Canal Street. You couldn't get through Mears, and you couldn't get through Alt 19. So it was pretty much the only way out was Klosterman from off of Florida. That was the only way out at high tide. So, you know, it's, as far as it was a good lesson to see where the top of the tide was, there wasn't very much we would be able to do. It was just too much water once we had the backside of the storm. So here's my questions. You have here the Sponge Docks pump station. I'm trying to think of whether, you know, of course, I've asked you this, so it's a hard question to ask you again. To have the inline pumps that I've spoken about is so important because that's something that is the return on assets. As I'd like to say, for the cost of it, it's worthwhile for those high tides and the rain high tides. This kind of storm, the pump would just be running and nothing would be accomplished. It just can't push water back onto top of water. It just wouldn't work, no matter what we do.
Right.
So I would like to look into that, because I know it's not going to be 4 million. It would be in the possible tens of thousands or $100,000 to install, and that I think would be a much more value. The Elfers Spur Trail, I've been by it already. Is there going to be any light there because, or something that would control traffic? Because there's no way you're going to get across that with a bicycle without getting hit.
I assume you're talking about the crossing at Alt 19?
Yes.
Yeah, there's going to be a signalized crossing there, pedestrian signal.
Okay. 'Cause
Not just rapid flashing beacons, but actual signal.
okay,
red
because otherwise that's just a death trap.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So that's a concern of mine. Did we have anything that we were going to do with the 300,000 extra that we got off the Bay Shore septic to sewer extra?
We allocated that to other projects within the ARPA money.
Yes, that's, okay. The Craig Park seawall. So I know that's still so far out and, you know, it's really an icy, you can't walk around it and whatnot. Do we have any plans for the other side from Tarpon around to Canal?
We're going to get to that
Yeah.
in the next step, which are the unfunded projects.
Well, I asked that only because that's underwater almost on every high tide.
Right.
And, you know, there's no, I know you have to do something, but doing one side and not doing the other, I just can hear the residents saying what they're going to say.
Sure, and it's definitely a phase 2 that's unfunded, as the city manager said. We're including it in the permitting phase now, so it's being wrapped into that. So moving into a phase 2, if funding were to come available, would be a lot easier.
Because it's going to be pretty much similar price to what the first part is,
Agreed.
correct? Yeah.
But we need to remember, there are how many agreements that are
Yeah.
going to be done with property owners, because where we have the rights to do phase 1, we don't have the rights to do phase 2. So phase 2 is going to be getting the number of property owners anywhere to do anything. The agreements we're going to need, we just have to remember, thank goodness it's in the long future, that's going to be a time-consuming, delicate process that could have some stress and strain to it. We have to remember that, because we're dealing with, they own the property, not where we're doing in phase 1 where we own the property. So that's the big thing with phase 2.
I hear you loud and clear. That's pretty much all I have right now.
Yeah, and the docks, the private docks are going to have to be dealt with.
Yes.
Yep.
We'd have to,
Let me go to Commissioner Kulianis. You have anything?
We haven't gotten into the
Unfunded?
stuff we were talking.
these are funded, these are showing the funded projects.
Okay, Commissioner. I have a couple of questions. On the North Pinellas beautification, I don't see any money for that. We don't, I thought we had money for it. We don't see anything. I don't see anything.
The North Pinellas Corridor, we had about 500,000. We were still earmarking that
Is that
out
a
of the,
previous year?
out of the CRA fund, yes.
2020 what?
When did we start
money
that?
in
And kept flip-
2020.
We've been flipping it over every budget. When did we start? 21, 22?
So we've got
Probably not.
500,000 encumbered for that.
It's not encumbered, but we've just been reserving it off.
It's there if we get
Yes.
to that. Then we'll encumber it, right? Okay.
Correct.
We're talking about the North Pinellas. Where are we with the state in this slow? I keep telling, I remember 3 or 4 months ago, I told the board we were close, and that's about the 5th time in 3 years I've told the board we're close.
We got most of our approvals, actually, we're going out to bid to get costs right now.
Okay, so we'll be coming before the commission with that thing very
Hopefully
soon.
next couple of months, we
Okay,
will be, yeah.
okay. Finally. That's a bucket list item of mine.
The wetland at the golf course, we don't, remember you were talking to, I forgot what his name was, the gentleman that owns it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Have you made any progress on that, or?
Yes, in fact, we'll talk about that. It's not in the backup, but we'll talk about that when we get to the possible funding things that are coming up later
Later
to do.
tonight, or-
Tonight, yes.
Okay, all right.
Yes, I've got the latest on it. We did have a deadline to do that passed, but he did tell me he would extend that deadline as we talk through the budget process. So I'm going to add that in tonight when we talk about those things we may want to look at down the road for finance and funding and stuff, to have that consideration under there, so.
Maybe a funding issue, a bond issue, or whatever it is, if the.
Yeah, or if when we talk about the process we're going to do there, it may be something we need to consider. We're talking around somewhere around 800 to 900,000 right now in the agreement stuff. But I know some of you knew that we had a deadline because he was going to move on and do something else, but he recognized our issue. He recognized we were going for the vote on the Stamets property, so he did extend the deadline for us.
Mr. Mills, right?
Mr. Mills was gracious enough to extend the deadline for us so we can keep it in play as you all evaluate. And we're talking about all that big pieces of land on the south side of the golf course for preservation, and because otherwise you're going to sell it off and people are going to try to take the little pieces of upland in there, and you're going to throw things in there if he sells it out.
Hopefully it can help us with drainage on the.
Yes, that's another thing from looking at what we look at is if there's anything that can help with there.
The other thing, I don't want to call it building maintenance, but the clerk's office is coming along. I know that we paid for the building, but and I think I got an answer the amount included the Phase 2 parking lot stuff. Is that correct?
Yes.
Bob, you want to?
Yes, it is.
So is there anything else that needs to be done? Furniture, all that's rolled into it?
We're working on that now.
Yes, the furniture, all the
All that was in the.
furniture, all of
included
that's in the,
Okay, and.
they're getting ready on that
Irene,
now.
everything's, as far as, so far within cost too?
As far as I know, yes, and if it hasn't been, we've tried to make it,
You know, the one thing, I always like to support the clerk's office. I don't want y'all winding up with Xerox boxes as chairs or desks or anything like that because you're trying to keep things within budget. I think that we need to make an expenditure on things that are going to last rather than trying to fit our furnishings within the budget we have, which we should. But if it just is that far off, I think we need to know about it. And in fairness to Ms. Jacobs, I also think she needs a little help with that because she's got her hands full with everything else too.
Oh, yeah, that's an understanding from the start. We're not going, we're going first class with everything else. We're not going to go second class on the pieces. And if we need, and she gets to the point from the start, if we need something to not go first class, we'll a little bit of second, third, fourth class, then we'll have the money available and we'll put something else back to do that, so.
Yeah, or just as I know that there were certain thoughts that they were going to be done in a particular time. We're still looking at that, or has that changed?
Still telling me the end of October, early November for completion. Obviously, we're going to wait till after an election before they shut down and move their offices. So, grain of salt. I think it's probably going to be a little longer than that.
The other question I have is, and I know I've been told that we're okay in terms of the log of physics and the way that water runs downhill, but when that building starts getting finished on the interior, I don't think we can live with that asphalt between the old police station classrooms and that other place being elevated like that, hoping that these blocks with this sandbagging or whatever they're using is going to keep the water out of the clerk's office. I would suspect that they may have some issues during this storm as well. So that's all I go by there every day
understand.
as I come.
You go by and look at that thing, it's scary. It's
It
scary.
is, yeah.
Yeah, all of that is going to be graded down,
Okay.
and the asphalt's
I
coming
hope
out.
sooner than later,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
all.
It-
I mean,
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
you know, it's almost like Einstein's definition of insanity. You know, the same things are being done over and over and hoping for a different consequence. So,
right, yeah.
okay, that's all I have on that. Anybody else? I'm sorry. Commissioner Iser. I'm sorry, you had
This
your
is
light on. Okay.
Tom, if you don't mind. I was thrilled to see that all of the, around the trees, we filled with that like rubber compound.
Yes, FlexiPave, yes.
Right, but is there any upkeep to that? Because some of them are cracking, they're coming up, you know, some of them have already been a little bit destroyed.
Some of the older ones that we've had down there for 7 or 8 years, it's not a perfect material, but it is porous. We know there's some that we will be replacing.
We
some
do have
of
a
those.
replacement schedule
We
to
have a
do
replacement
those.
schedule too, yes.
Okay,
Those ones that are cracked, the older ones, we've
Yeah, they've been there for quite a while, so.
I just didn't know if there was new ones, old ones, and, you know,
No, there are, no, yeah, the original ones we put in were 7 years ago, almost 8 years ago now.
gotcha.
I think
The
we're on
little ones
last,
we
we
got
just got one
replaced.
more phase to phase those out and start over again with our replacement plans.
So do you take them out and redo, or is it possible to repair?
No, we'll take all that FlexiPave out and pour new FlexiPave.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't just single repair it, no, sir.
That's it, thank you.
Commissioner.
All right, to the unfunded, I believe is next.
We're going on to the unfunded capital projects, and this screen is summarizing the unfunded capital projects, splitting it between the general government funds and the enterprise funds. We've got the land for the purchase of the dredge site, $5,250,000, if voter approved. And off to the right, I've worked with Bob on some of the dates for when the financing is needed, when the construction will start on these projects, and when the project's complete. And obviously, the land, the dredge site, the money is due by the end of December, if it's approved. We've got the Cops and Kids new building. The estimate is $4 million. Funding needed by February 2025. Construction starts spring 2025. And the project completed at spring of 2026. And we got Craig Park Seawall Phase 2 construction, estimated at $3 million. I think a lot of this stuff may be up in the air with some unknowns with this project. So I'm not sure, you know, if we're just estimating funding by January of 26, construction start spring of 26, and project complete spring of 27, but I know this is all up in
That's
the
not
air
gonna
and
make
stuff.
it.
That's why I was a little hesitant of even mentioning it and stuff with. And then down below the general government, it shows the total. The total with the land purchase approved is $12,250,000. If the land purchase is not approved, without it, it's $7 million. Getting into the enterprise funds, the water and sewer, we have a couple scenarios here also with Beckett Bridge Utilities. If the county grant is not approved, we'll need $4 million roughly for that. The county will need the money that I've heard maybe December of 24, January of 25. Construction starts summer of 2025. Beckett Bridge, if the grant is approved, we would need $1 million, really roughly the 20% match. The 20% match is around $800,000. I just rounded it up to $1 million. Again, with funding needed by December of 24. Construction starts summer 25. And Lyman Huey Lift Station, we have $1 million funded, but we need $1 million more. The funding would be needed by December of 24. Construction starts spring of 25, with it being completed in the fall of 25. And then the two scenarios below is Beckett Bridge with grant not approved, $5 million. And with the Beckett Bridge grant approved, we're looking for $2 million. And at the bottom, we've got the golf course new clubhouse. The estimate is maybe between 3 and 4 million, with the project funding needed by January of '26. Construction start spring of '26, with it completed in spring of '27. So I'll stop there and see if you have any questions on that screen.
Vice Mayor Clear, got anything?
No, these are all solid projects. I
You
mean,
want to,
no comments at this.
you have anything?
No comments at this time.
We'll go on to the next slide?
Yep.
Okay. Then for the financing of the projects, this is just the general government ones. We got the two scenarios. If the dredge site is approved by the voters and lumping that in with the cops and kid billing for $4 million, we're looking for $9 million we could possibly going out for financing. Scenario 2, if the land purchase is not approved by the voters, we're looking at $4 million for the cops and kids building. And then we just mentioned fiscal year '26, if there's any other projects that come up there. No questions there. I'll go to the next slide.
Again, this is the place where I'm talking about. The other project that's not on here, again, we talked about is the Mills property. And we still have to work with appraisals and stuff. It's a hard property and pieces to appraise and stuff, but, you know, somewhere between 700 and 900 is probably where we're gonna get at, but we've still got some work to do. He's opened up that process. The county's already approved on alternate 19 where the old nursery was. They're already going, I forget how many apartments, homes, whatever they are, they're gonna go on that upland there, but all the rest of the property, is gonna be open. There's planning right now is looking at what each parcel, there's about 6 of them in there, what could actually be done to bring you, for instance, in parcel 1, people could develop it and do this, they could develop this here. So we gotta look at what could happen to that greenery and that property. Again, that not only we could buy to keep green, but to see if any drainage or anything future, there's a lot of things we're looking at still. So while there's a lot of things we still have to look at, because Mr. Mills extended that date, that 900 is kind of where the other projects may be, 700 to 900 we need to consider. And when we get to the point where we're actually going to look at financing, then we should have all those answers for you. But I think that could be a very important piece of property, if just for preservation, but for the other things we can do to make sure we don't lose all that greenery that goes between other areas of town. So I just want you to be aware of it now. We've got a lot of work we're doing on it and stuff, and that's going to be another project under consideration we might want to consider if we're going out and for funding and stuff, so.
Could you talk about Corus Park and how that fits in on all of this as well?
Yes, Corus Park is in court. Right now, we've already been to a court mediation that there's 4 hours of my life I'll never get back that didn't get us anywhere, didn't get us beyond $1.8 million. There's a lot of issues with it that still have to be dealt with now. Now the issue is on some side, there's just a lot of issues now they're attacking the city on for a settlement. So it's nasty, it's ongoing, it may go on for a while. And we've always got into consideration if there's an ability to buy it and settle this thing, but it certainly is nowhere looking good now that we're gonna be able to do that in this action. But we've got a long bout of court to go on that and stuff, so.
As I understood from Mr. Salzman, since this is a court action, whatever the cost is, it's not going to go to voter referendum. The judge is going to order the city to purchase it, and that's, we think, a natural outcome of this. My only suggestion would be to perhaps include, maybe ask Mr. Salzman, yourselves, some kind of a funding wedge in what you've already got here. Just, I want to, popular word these days are placeholders, but you know what I'm talking about. It's just put a funding wedge in there just to make sure that we don't fall short if somehow something happens and we've got to come up with $1 million or something like that.
Hopefully, when we get closer to actually seeing if we're going to finance, we'll have a better idea. It may be a case where we just have to pay it off and we're not able to buy it because our choice is to pay them blank amount of money or buy it for a too high fee that we wouldn't even consider buying. So, but yeah, we'll have to have some kind of wedge of financing in this financing thing to include that in if it goes. And again, Mr. Saul, it is a Florida League case defending us right now, and fortunately or unfortunately, they make the final decisions on it because it's their money right now. But Mr. Saul's been from the start of it, and he was at the mediation fighting our side alongside the Florida League. But there is a chance there could be some disagreement between us and the Florida League. But again, everybody has to remember when we're talking, this is a Florida League case. Their money besides a small amount that we have to pay. So,
But they could cut us loose if they find that
yes.
it's not within their purview.
Or they could force us to settle it, not buy it, just settle it and get out of it and then fend for ourselves. That's the thing about doing it. It could be we're settling this case, not with us buying the property to get this away and get it our purview, and then you're on your own with trying to buy the property. So that could be an alternative. But there's many because the court case is so early. It seems like a long time to us.
Yeah, I
but
don't wanna-
in the realms of court thing, we're way early in this
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, we can kind of get into some hypotheticals, but I'd rather not do that
No,
right
no,
now.
because it could go a bunch of different ways. So,
Okay.
but we need to consider it if that opportunity does come up to settle, get the land for a good price and stuff. We'll have to have a funding source to do that with. So Ron will have that on the back burner.
Okay. Anybody at this end?
Yes.
You, go ahead.
So
Commissioner
since we didn't want to get into hypothetical, I want to go into hypothetical to just ask one question of the city manager. What happens in the event, of course, you transfer on in January, this whole thing gets pushed over to the next city manager? I know you're not looking to stay on and handle this case, correct?
No, but I'll still be on the witness list, so.
Okay.
I'll be on the $17 court fee to come to the court that the court pays. It won't be on your dime.
to pay you too.
I'll get gas money to come to court.
Thank you.
All right. Commissioner DiDonato, anything? Okay.
Okay, next.
The next slide, this is the one where we have general government funds, scenario 1 and 2, but now we're going to go into scenario 1 and 2 for these general government funds and the financing numbers. As you remember, the land purchase plus cops and kids billing, $9 million at the current bank loan rate of 4.25% for 10 years. Total debt service is a little over $11 million with annual debt service of $1.1 million. And the annual debt service to revenue is 3.24. And I'll just, if you remember from a meeting we had a little bit ago where the commissioner and I, we worked on the debt service ratios, and the 3.24% is where we wanted to be. We compared it to other cities. The average was the 4.51%. So we thought it was good to try to keep that under the 4%, excuse me. Scenario 2 with the cops and kids building, $4 million. I brought the interest rate down to 4% because if we can do it a little bit later, the talk right now is interest rates are going to be cut. So I'm hoping that, they're talking about a cut in September. It might be, they're talking about almost 4 more cuts in the interest rates and then by December of 24. So that means, we could be able to finance at lower interest rates. So that's why I put that one at 4% for 10 years. Total debt service of $4.8 million with annual debt service of $485,000, and that would put us at 1.89%. I don't know if you remember from when we were talking about our ratio, we're one of the lowest ones in the county and the area at 0.89%, compared to Dunedin, which is top on the list at 12.21% of debt service to revenue. So I don't know if you have any questions on that.
Anything? Go ahead, Commissioner Kulianis.
Ron, let me get a little background.
You're fine.
What is the, I'm sorry. What's the existing, I see where you have annual debt on scenario 1, 1.1 million. But then when you come up with your 3.24, that's all debt. So how much is the existing debt?
The existing debt is a $375,000, the number we had on slide 1.
Okay, 375. And then, and that's just one, bond, right? What is that?
With the
What's-
375,000,
Yeah,
that is the 2 fire truck capital leases we did for 5 years.
the leases. Okay, and then, so what, when do they expire?
We've got the 1 fire truck, the last payment is in 2028, and the one in 2026.
So, and what is the revenue number that we're using for this?
45,700,000.
Okay. So, now have we decided, and I'm not making any commentary on this, I'm just asking the question. When we go back to our non-funded capital projects, we have Cops and Kids at 4 million. Down at the bottom, we have the golf course. Now, that golf course funding would not be, if we were to make that a priority, it still wouldn't come out of the general fund, right?
Correct, the governmental funds, probably
Have
some
to
out of the
stay
penny
down
fund.
there.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So, and what is the, because I see you have scenario 1, land purchase, Cops and Kids, and then scenario 2, you have Cops and Kids. So what is the breakdown of the land purchase alone? On line 1, I apologize to put you on the spot.
For the debt service for
Yeah,
that?
because you got the debt services 1.1 million, which is for the land purchase and the Cops and Kids. But if we're kicking the Cops and Kids down under scenario 2, we're waiting to do the Cops and Kids later, we would only be doing the land purchase. So how much is just the land purchase?
If you just want to do the land purchase, that was about the 670,000.
670, okay. Because under your scenario 2, you're talking about waiting on Cops and Kids for interest rates to come down.
Yeah, I just thought it wouldn't be necessary to do it in November to go out to bid. I just thought, let's just see how the interest rates are going this fall. Let's see if they decrease them in September and November and see if they start going down. If we hold off a couple months, maybe they go down another 25 basis points.
Okay.
On $4 million, if you go from 4.25% to 4%, that's a savings of interest of $57,000.
So if we just did the land purchase and the existing debt, so we have 670 plus 375. And then if we divide that, 670 plus 375, sorry, 375. Okay, and then divide that by 45,700,000. We're at, that would be, so we would start out with a annual debt service to revenue ratio of 2.28.
That sounds correct, yes,
Okay, and then we would be adding the 1.89 later.
correct.
Okay. So,
But the 1.89 includes the fire trucks also.
oh, I got you, okay. So then that's going to, but we'd end up below the 3.24 because we
Right.
would have a quarter of a percent less interest.
Correct,
So it would be a little less than the 3.2.
yes.
All right. Okay, that's all I have for that slide. Thank you.
Well, can you kind of tell us what the point is of what you just,
Well, I just want clarification on numbers. So we would start out on scenario 1. If we did scenario 2, we would start out at a 2.28% debt to revenue ratio, which is still below, I don't know if you still have that slide we did. You could show everybody where we are, just to refresh everybody.
So we
where-
ranked?
we're good.
Still have that?
We're good,
Okay.
right?
That we're still low, we're much lower than
Other,
other
Cities.
municipalities.
okay.
And then we would then later add the Cops and Kids, which we don't, as things go, that could end up being in the spring or something.
Are you talking about trying to, instead of combining them both, try to still separate them out?
Well, I mean, everything's up in the air because we don't know if we're gonna have to buy the Stamets property, right? Then basically all bets are off, because if we don't buy the Stamets property, then we just do the cops and kids, we're at 1.8%, 1.89% debt to service ratio, very low, very doable in the city. But we could end up doing both and still stay below a fair debt to revenue ratio. So I'm just establishing that.
And just to keep in mind, you know, if you're doing each banknote we do, you're looking at about $50,000 worth of fees between the attorneys and the banks for each separate banknote. So just trying to keep that in mind.
But so under scenario 2, you're talking about, okay, so the rate might be less, but we're going to pay more in fees?
For each banknote we do, you're going to have the fees. That's why I thought with scenario 1, if we need to, we do it both at the same time and just have that one $50,000 fee.
So then what do you anticipate the fees being how much?
50, for each banknote, $50,000 with the city attorney, the bond attorney, the financial advisor, and the whatever bank and their fees.
Okay, so if we do scenario 2, which is postpone the cops and kids till later, till rates come down, we're going to pay $100,000. Is that what you're saying?
Well, you'll have the savings on the interest if you're going down 25 basis
But you
points
pay
also.
more.
So they
but
might
you- But you
offset.
pay more fees because it's a separate debt.
You save $57,000 on the interest, but you might, if you're doing another separate issue, you're going to be paying $50,000 more. So they
So we don't
offset.
really get, so why would we go to scenario 2 then?
We might not. and I
Well,
shouldn't have
scenario
you
2
throw
is
it in
just if the land does not get approved.
there. That's what I thought.
Well, I understand that, but if we have to, so you're not saying, well, but yeah, but on scenario 2, you're saying, okay, I get you. You're saying if we got to do both, we're going to do them both at the same time.
Correct.
If we're only going to do one, we can wait.
That's where the confusion came from in
Gotcha,
your scenario.
okay.
too.
Yeah, I'm just,
It's CPA financial talk, you know.
There it is.
So we're still good.
so we're not going to, we're not going to buy the property and do cops and kids at 2 separate times
Correct.
because it would be too expensive.
Correct. I think the costs would offset between the low reduction in interest rate, but then you have the 2 separate notes, each costing $50,000 each.
And under the financing rules, how long can we hold that money till we spend it?
Well, you got to be careful with arbitrage, but you usually have the maximum would be 3 years, but
3 years, okay.
Yeah.
And we could get the cops and kids all done in 3 years, so, yeah, get all that stuff. All right, that was just
Is that, we're still okay?
Still good. Right?
yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Still good.
Let me, you're not, Commissioner, you're not, okay. Let me ask, on the cops and kids, and just kind of go over it one more time. I know we picked site plan 1, right? Bob?
Correct.
And the estimate for the 4,000 was, I'm sorry, 4,000, 4 million. 4 million was, it was more than just a building, is that correct?
Building, relocating the tennis courts.
The
That's it.
relocating the tennis courts. I'm not going to be here when all that takes place. But I want to say this. We've shown a site plan of what it's going to be compared to what it is right now. And we've made certain representations, and the site plan is beautiful. And I just hope that 4 million is really going to be enough by the time we get to the point of doing this.
That's a problem, yes.
That's going to leave the finished, that's going to finish the project as we presented it and got it approved. And we've got a very nice facility right now, and everything is good. And I just hope that we don't leave any loose ends that we'll say, well, we'll get to that in the future, because people are going to literally question, why didn't you plan for this? So I just want to make sure that if there's any question concerning what I just said, that we take another look at that $4 million and 4 million, right? Yeah, and making sure that that's enough with the new cops and kids, what we need for it, both interior, exterior, relocating the tennis courts with the lights, that huge walkway that we've got planned for that, and which would also double as a truck, or I don't want to call it a truck, but a route for vehicles to travel, right? And the landscaping that goes along with that. $4 million compared to what we're doing with the clerk's office, which is what, 6 million, or am I wrong about that?
2.9,
How much is it?
2.9.
One something?
2.9.
2.9. Yeah, it's still going to be fairly small compared to what we're doing over there, and
No,
I'm just a
you're right.
little worried about the
We
4
need to
million.
do an analysis with the prices when we get closer, because
Yeah.
I think there needs to be a little more.
But
added to
I will
that.
say that 4 million includes all the things you're talking about, the lighting, but it also has an escalation in it, assuming that we're going to be going to construction right around the time we think it is. So I'm happy to look at those numbers again, and I appreciate what you're saying, Mayor.
It's going to be real important because I think Mr. Herring, Ron, and Commissioner Kulianis with his calculator are going to start looking as far as the debt funding and stuff like that. And I just want to make sure that we've included enough money to do this project the way we've represented people, that's all.
You can always finance more, Ron.
Okay, that's all.
No
I want to say
problem,
about the cops. Okay. The Housing Authority's not putting one nickel into all this, right?
No.
Okay, that's all. Anybody else on this item okay.
Now we're going into the enterprise fund, the water and sewer, again with two scenarios, but I think it'll be, we're not doing it at two separate times here like the previous scenario. But the scenario one is, if the county grant is approved, we need the 1 million plus the 1 million for Lyman Huey for a total of $2 million. Scenario two is if the grant's not approved, we need the 4 million plus the 1 million for 5 million. And then down below, we have the two scenarios, the $2 million at 4.25%, 10 years. Total debt service, 2.4 million. Annual debt service, 245,000. Scenario two, Beckett Bridge, 4 million, and Lime Huey, 1 million, 5 million of financing at the 4.25% for 10 years. Total debt service, 6.1 million, and annual debt service, 614,000.
It's a lot of water under the bridge.
Water and sewer lines under
I
the
remember
bridge.
what was the price originally when they started the bridge? It was close to $1 million. Wasn't it close to $1 million when this project started 5 years ago?
I think it's 800,000.
800,000, oh, just under $1 million it was. That's expanded to 4 million.
All right, well, let's, any questions on that?
No, I just appreciate that we have the Huey lift station projected for 2025. I understand it's a big area over there, and we want to just take care of it before anything happens. So appreciate it and bringing it up. Thank you.
Commissioner Kulianis, got anything?
Ron, let me ask you, on the, explain the net revenue to debt service ratio in the water and sewer fund. Scenario one, you're financing 2 million, right?
Correct.
And then you say it's 3.11%.
Right.
And what is the factor there? I'm calculating like 23 million. What is the?
Well, with the enterprise funds, there's a different measurement. Like before, we were taking of the general government funds, the total revenue by the annual debt service. With the enterprise funds, we do it by net revenues. It's the gross revenues minus gross expenses. What's the net revenues and the coverage ratio? And so with the 2 million, we have a coverage ratio of 3.11, which is strong. And with the other ratio, we have the 2.67. So it's the amount of debt served as a percentage of the net revenues, operating income, net income.
So why, when you're borrowing more, is the debt ratio smaller?
Because you're going to have, as far as the equation, you've got the net revenues, but then it's going to be a higher amount of the debt service cost for the higher amount.
Because are you counting the grant money as part of the revenue?
No, that's not count. It's the net income, operating revenue minus operating expenses to come up with your net revenue.
So what we didn't do, I think, in our original, when we sat down and did those calculations of all the, the municipalities.
That was just the
We were
general
only doing
government funds.
general fund.
Yeah,
Okay, so we haven't done a corresponding analysis of this fund, because if we're getting into the 3% number on the general fund, and now we're going into 3% now into the water and sewer fund, it's not, it's on top of each other.
it's a different measurement methodology for the enterprise funds as far as the bond covenants, like our current bond covenant. So the higher number means you're stronger versus what we were looking at before. We wanted to be a lower number with the general government. So I thought I'd just keep it similar to what our current water plant bond and how the bond covenants, the requirements for those, which is the minimum is 1.2%.
So if in this water and sewer fund, if we had to fund the entire Beckett Bridge, the 5 million, where is that debt service coming from? And now does that complicate anything that, that Mr. Kiger was calculating when he was saying we're gonna hopefully keep the rate increase at 3.75? If we have this in addition to that, is that gonna crank?
We
that
had that
requirement?
folded into the last rate study when we were working on a debt for this project.
So you count, in that 3.75 that you thought we could maintain,
Right.
you've already incorporated $614,000 into that?
Correct.
Just want to confirm that. Want to confirm it. Don't want surprises.
We're good, we're good.
That was it. That's
We're good, okay. All right. Next.
One last one, the golf course. Just the one, the golf course, amount financed, we think between 3 and 4 million. We've got the amount financed 4 million. Yeah, I plugged in 3.25%, so hopefully the rates have gone down. Maybe it'll be less than that for over 10 years. About 4.7 million of debt service with annual debt service of 469,000 with the net revenue debt service of 1.77.
Sure. I'll just ask a couple questions. We talk about the clubhouse, and I know there've been talks about a smaller kitchen or whatnot, but I really want to try. We're only going to get one shot at this for a very long time.
Yeah, that's not the Mark version. The Quonset hut and that stuff, that's the Mark version. This is the Mac, this is the other version, so.
The Mark version's better, I think? Or
No, it's cheaper,
Oh.
but this is the first.
I just want to clarify.
This is the one that's not the Mark version of saving a lot of money and stuff.
Okay.
This is the bigger kitchen, the bigger everything, the what you described last time at the meeting, because that's kind of the consensus of the other people we talked to on the board, and looking at an input from the golf course and stuff, so.
Okay, good. So Mr. Howard got involved too, getting his input. I just want this that we get all the bells and whistles that we can. We're gonna have one shot at making this a community area and place for people to gather and stay after they're golfing, or the other organizations that may rent from there, and any other type of renting that can happen. There's a lot of potential there. Miss Diane and staff did get the approval for the beer and wine for the special, for the plays and stuff they have here. I would strongly recommend that we try to push for a liquor license in the future. I see what can come out of it, and that we keep pushing the great things that the golf course is doing and the revenue that's coming out of it. That's taken a long time. So it is important that we do look at those Mills properties close by for any runoff, or, just to help it over there. And just happy to see this come forward and for the community as well. So thank you.
I just wish I could find some more parking.
Oh, the golf course? Oh, I know.
Just wish,
Yeah, I
because you
drive
have a
by there
popular
and it's
clubhouse,
yeah.
and you have the season when you can't find a place for just golfing. But
No, and that's a good point, because when it's full and, you know, you got a new four starting every 15 minutes, that I see people even lined up on lot 19. So it is an issue, but this is for the community.
Well,
It's
maybe
gonna work out.
offsite in some kind of shuttle. I mean, wait till we get the clubhouse, but we may have to, because there definitely isn't much on-site. We've looked at every configuration to get more on-site, but there is possibility we may have to seek in the future with this, especially if it gets popular, an on-site and maybe a little longer golf cart shuttle that we shuttle people back and forth. And that's in the future. If this thing gets as popular as we think it's going to be, that's what we have to consider.
But you can see it getting popular. You can
Yeah.
see it becoming a focal point of the community.
Yeah.
And so that's I really want to drive that home for the board to be receptive to it all. So thank you for bringing it up and pushing it forward to get us where we're at right now. Thank you.
Commissioner Kulyas, you got anything?
Okay, so the annual debt service, the 469,000, there's not profit at the golf course to cover 469,000, correct?
Well, that's why we're at the 1.77% there. So yes, there is.
Okay, so there's enough golf course revenue to cover the 469,000? We make that much profit now?
Yes, for the last 3 years. I know some years you might have some bad weather and stuff, but yes, we have.
But initially, okay, when we start construction, we're going to have to cover funding of the debt, right? We're going to have to pay the debt service right away.
Well,
Golf
yes,
course is going to be compromised.
correct.
So where's that money come from?
Well, we've got the money in reserves. It's built up to some reserves of about 1.2 million right now.
Okay, and so that'll cover more than 2 years worth of
Correct.
debt service. So, and it's not going to take more than 2 years to build this.
I think they've said maybe 1 year.
Okay, just want to make sure that we're good.
Good.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, on the golf course, I don't recall, but since we've got an estimate, do we have any renderings or anything that, nothing yet, huh?
No, this is the first step of establishing that this is a priority in this budget to establish the funding for, and to begin the processes. Once commission's going forward with this, then
I know that, if I remember right, Vice Mayor Kulyas wanted Old Florida, is that something, Old South or Southern type?
No, not so much that.
Somebody was talking about that, but go ahead.
I know our renderings will look a lot different at a $2.5 million clubhouse as opposed to
Yeah.
a $4 million. And it looks like the extra time and care and quality to help make it that focal point and a solid place in the future will go a long way
Yeah.
in its return. So I think by having that budget set up, it will address some of the concerns that I had and just going all out in a way.
Are there any ideas or anything that we've got as far as the type of building?
and we'd probably bring that, now that, when it gets through this budget and budget,
That-
we'd have
that
something to
would be
bring. We
helpful,
would bring those forward. That would be the next step of bringing those.
Again, it's the idea of not surprising anybody. that-
Yes.
Okay.
No, this is just established.
right.
This is a funding part, and it's put in the budget to do, and then we start the process of the public, the commission, getting together and designing. So we go to design what you want and the public want.
I know this is always somewhat of a sensitive issue, but it worked real well with the library. Has there been any talk about including some of our more active golfers in some kind of a committee to help with the design? Ms. Archer, for example, I know she's the one who had communicated some of the repairs that needed to be done, and I'm sure she's got her friends that she golfs with. And to me, I just, somewhere along the line, I'd like to have obviously it's the commission's decision, but I think it may be worth, if it's not too
That's
unmanageable.
how we plan to do all projects like that, you know, with good, to have groups and stuff. And then one of the groups that we would get the ideas and suggestions from would be the group of actual a
Yeah, I
golfing
mean,
group.
and you know, the idea is not, they don't even have to have a meeting. They could just
No.
have something set up there.
Just like we do for Connect Tarpon and the,
Or
you know.
right there in the lobby
little
or
meetings
whatever.
with
Right.
bringing people involved and having those workshops and stuff.
Okay.
That's the way to go we have in the future for all projects like that, to make sure we have that input and that input from the start of the process, not after we've got it designed and at the end of the process.
Okay, good. Nothing on this side, right? Okay. Go ahead. You got your light on.
In my Forrest Gump of a life, I was the outside controller for Ledbetter Enterprises, David Ledbetter, for 7 years, and they develop courses. You get golf architects. They specialize in golf course, in golf clubhouses, and you get when you get the architects, you get specialized architects that understand golf. They could come over, get a sense of our community, what we look like, and then give us renderings that would be conducive to that. I mean, they've done, you know, there's guys in Orlando that have done the golf courses at Celebration and Disney World and all over, and that's what they do. So I don't think before you got like a committee of lay people to try to throw a bunch of things. I think if you're hiring a golf course architect, obviously they can get some feedback from these people, but they'll come here, they'll look at our community, and they'll get a sense of, you know, giving us some renderings, and you play with them.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm wondering if we're gonna have, and I haven't been on the course in years. I gave up golf years ago, when actually David Ledbetter saw me play, and he told me that if he ever saw me play again, he was gonna fire me. Because he didn't want anybody thinking that he gave me a golf lesson. So it would ruin his reputation. So anyways, but you know, if we're gonna have an A-quality clubhouse, have we reviewed the actual golf course itself? And does it need enhancement to be brought, you know, do the greens need to be enhanced? Do the bunkers need to be changed? Are there a lot of things, you know, again, we don't want to have a great clubhouse and then a subpar course.
Tom, do you want to address that?
So should we look at that if we're looking at the clubhouse as well?
Well, one of my favorite projects I ever did here in the city was the rebuilding of the golf course 8 years ago. We replaced all the greens, we rearranged some of the holes. The reason why the golf course is so popular now is because of the renovation we did itself on the golf course.
So you feel that the course is
Yes, and they've just upgraded all the tee boxes too. Do I feel the course needs a new clubhouse? Oh yeah, without a doubt. I'd like to discuss with you on what clubhouse it needs. It doesn't need, you know, it doesn't even want something that you would put at Pinehurst. It needs something that's it's going to generate revenue, and I agree with you, we're on that. But you got to look at your clientele. You got to think about your clientele, you got to think about your golfers, you got to think about golf outings. And that's very important. That's where a lot of your revenue will come back.
But I do want to interject on this. Our clientele is what the atmosphere has created there. And if we change the atmosphere just a little bit, I'm telling you, the clientele will be a more mix, because what people will come, you know, we form a committee, they'll have different suggestions, those who usually play in the morning, as opposed to people who will play in the evening, you know, and so.
All that's coming, all that.
We'll get there.
I'm an avid golfer. I'm a pretty good golfer, actually. I'm a single-digit player.
Oh, wow.
I play a lot of golf. But you got to think about your clientele, and then even if you bring in a higher-end restaurant over there, the golf course is worth $50 a round. It's not worth 75, 100, 150, some of these top golf courses. You're still going to have that. So you got to be careful on how you present the golf clubhouse itself.
That's a later discussion.
That's a long
We're not,
discussion.
you're
I'd love to
jumping
hear
way
that.
ahead of the thing, so sit down.
Okay, we're done, I think, on that one.
Okay, is our last thing the normal miss of anything else we haven't covered tonight? Is that next where we are, Ron?
Well, city manager and I talked about just updating you on how the ARPA is and where we're at
Oh,
on it.
yes.
So that was the last
Update you on ARPA. Go ahead, Ron.
And we put these on here so maybe a little easier to read. It might be hard to read up here, but the first slide, we're just trying to show you all the projects. We got the 12.8 million. We've got the 12.9 million obligated when the board approved it. And then as of July 31st, 2024, trying to tell you the status of it. Green means those projects are complete. The light blue is the estimated timeline. The obligated for the projects was, you had to have them obligated by December 31st, 2024. We've already done that. I'm anticipating, I would say by December of 25, we should have all the money spent. The deadline for spending all the money was December 31st of 2026. So we're doing good with using all the ARPA money. This next slide is just going on into all the ARPA projects. What it's showing is the ARPA, the projects that have ARPA tied to it, the total cost of the project. In green is the ARPA funded portion, the 12.9 million, then the non-ARPA funding. And the yellow, it's the ARPA funding that's expensed as a total that's expensed as of July 31st, 2024, where we've spent 7.7 million of the ARPA money. And that leaves the remaining ARPA money still remaining as a 5.2 million. And that's the update on the ARPA money.
So based on what you just said, I'm going to just state that what I'm interested in is that we encumber everything by December 31st, 2024, and it's expended by December 31st, 2026. So that's the game plan as you're showing it. Is that correct?
They're already, all of them are encumbered. And the hospital has spent its money too.
So we've reached the first step. They're all encumbered by the time of 24. Now we got to make sure they're all spent
By
by
December
26.
31st of 26, but I'm thinking by the previous year, 2025, we'll have it all spent. So we'll have it spent a year early.
Ron, are there any that, I mean, based on your experience, that look a little iffy right now as far as December 31st, 2026?
No, and that's when we came back and we reallocated some projects. One we were concerned about, and we reallocated those fundings to the penny fund to offset it. You know, like Lemon Street and Elfers. We moved money from the Sponge Docks pumping station and Craig Park Seawall Phase 2. We had those in here, but we took that money out of the ARPA because of concern about not meeting that deadline.
This new plan gives us a year's leeway of things going wrong.
Right.
We plan to have them done a year before the deadline, and we've got those 12 months as a leeway if some things drag or something. So I think we got a great cushion by moving those projects that may have been a question of having runovers for whatever reason. When this board fixed that and put the pretty much sure things we get done, that's why we have a year of a makeup time if something goes wrong. So that should be plain. We're still gearing for that to be done a year early.
Okay. All right. Let me ask questions.
No questions for me on this subject section.
Ron, if we won't know about the, I'm sorry, did I go out of turn?
I'm sorry.
Did I go out of turn?
No, you're fine. I was just looking at Commissioner, remember teeing it up to the next step, but you're fine. Go ahead.
So if we don't, when will we won't know about buying the Stamus property till November, what's the election day?
November 5th.
November 5th. And we will have approved this budget by when?
The second public hearing is September 18th.
Okay, so I'm just asking you out of curiosity, how is this going to work? Are you going to have two budgets, or are you just going to assume we're buying the property, have it already in the budget, or how are you going to do that?
No, we'll bring it forward in a budget resolution.
And then if we don't do if we don't, if the referendum fails, then does the board, I'd like to hear from the board members, are there any projects that we have that could be put in that we could take advantage of, our willingness to create a little bit of debt? Is there anything we would want to accelerate that we may had on the thing, like the vice mayor was talking about Orange Street, or should we identify some of those things now, just to have that conversation, or does anybody have any ideas?
I think once we get the results of that election, we can bring it in as an agenda item, maybe to look at capital improvement projects during a regular session or even a special session.
I'm
if they
hoping
did.
that I'm hoping that the residents approve it, and then, there may be some things associated with that property too, once it's purchased, that needs to be done to it. I don't know what it would be, but maybe to secure it better. Right now, everything, we're just leasing it for storing dirt, but there may be some fencing and some things like that that need to be, put up to secure it. I don't know. I think that's what you're getting at. Wait till November, yeah.
So we're going to have a subsequent revising of the budget right after that referendum either passes or fails, because if it fails, we still may want to, kick some things in.
But it's not currently funded,
Correct.
so, okay, so we'll have a lot to discuss.
Yeah, we'll have things to discuss. Okay. We don't want to talk about those now, but I was just wondering if anybody had ideas. I know it's premature.
Anything?
Well, I did want to speak on,
July on,
yes, I do. I did not want to put anything on the table in advance, because you also give people then an alternative to say, well, if I don't vote for this, I could, maybe with the city could put their money here, there, or anywhere. So until I see the final vote, I really don't want to make even any suggestions of what we will do.
Same thing, Frank, yeah. The only, this is the end of where we are right now. I mean, we finished on, I have something else I want to talk
Well,
about.
we'll go, the last thing is always on a miscellaneous, where we talk about other things that
Okay.
come up, so.
So we got
The
miscellaneous.
last
now.
thing will be miscellaneous.
Okay.
when
Our
this-
wish list.
What's next after this?
That's it, miscellaneous is next, right?
Correct.
Okay.
We're there.
I almost hate to say it, but because I know we're going to have an agenda item, but anything that we need to discuss tonight concerning the CRA, not the assets that are already there, but anything that we need to, other than what we had already, or anything new that's come up with that, or?
Not really, but remember, the CRA budget just takes a CRA meeting to decide there's something that
No, I
wants
know.
to move forward and go. I don't think there's anything right now we're sitting looking at.
We did, yeah, the last budget meeting, we included the discussion of the
Yes.
CRA,
Yes.
right? Yeah,
Yes.
and I just want to make sure that, there aren't any deficiencies there, I guess, if you will, that we need to do.
Well, right now, we've got the money there if it's noted, or and whenever it's noted, October, November,
Yeah.
next month, or in 2 weeks. Hey, we got efficiency. We have got adequate money to do those.
And honestly, your gut feeling is we're not there yet on the Hoffman property to discuss it?
No, not
Not yet? Okay. All right. That's fine.
But it's not far off, but.
No,
not
no,
quite.
that's okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just, you know more the dynamic as far as the feel for things than I do, so that's fine. But as far as anything else at the other end of Tarpon Avenue towards the highway, there's nothing that we need to worry about there or anything.
No, and I'm comfortable, as he said, we've got double the amount or more of projects than we've ever had going at one time before. As they start to go, and as we go through this next budget time, the new city manager will be updated on as things ease up, because you only have so much manpower to do so many projects. There's a lot of things we could do now, but we need some of these record number of projects going to end, but we have the especially in the CRA, to move on to some of those things, especially some of those things that'll save some costs, because there's in-house money to use too.
The bump outs, how's that? I mean, we were talking about removing some of those.
Yeah.
To gain some additional
We're
parking.
still, remember, on the ones that are on roads, our roads is easy and can be doing it. The FDOT roads are a long process. of
Yeah, that
going.
was the other thing, the islands, right? We
Yeah,
talked
but
about
we're
the
on
islands.
course on adding, we've added some already. I think we've added our first phase of extra spaces. Some of them only one space or two spaces, but they're still added parking for downtown. And we're still working along that. And we have the money available in the CRA budget for that, to do the ones that are in the CRA.
Okay, and I really don't want to create another, because we haven't talked about it a little bit, but the, what's the name of the law firm that starts with a B that we've looked at their property for parking?
From the library.
What's his
Yeah.
name?
Across from the library, you mean?
Oh, goodness, not,
Yes.
Latour.
Latour, not B-L.
Yeah, yeah. Latour.
We haven't gotten any news from them as far as a purchase of property or like that.
No. But it's about that time. I think it's every 6 months. I think we contact them. So I think it's coming up September, October for our next
That
contact.
would, if that did come forward, that would be a little bit of a, kind of a shuffle the money around a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Because again, everybody talks about these parking garages and everything, but as I said from the start, we would have enough surface parking to last us many years before we'd even have to look at a parking
Yeah.
garage. If you leveled that, combined it with the
Right.
lots we got, and even we got a piece of the bank, you've got the surface parking for a while and can take your time if you're moving forward with the garage later and stuff, so.
I'll tell you, the first Fridays, nobody's complained about parking down there, all the vendors and things like that. Nobody's come back and they complain about other things, but not that, so, okay. So you're going to take a pass on Mr. Latour again, and
Yeah, it's gonna be a regular thing.
and he'll probably have a regular answer for you, too.
Well,
so.
he's gonna be ready to retire sometime.
All
So,
right, okay. Vice Mayor Kulyat, you had your light on?
No, I just did want to bring up, I did hear about a potential, I mean, it's a small property right between Johnny's Tap House and that upholstery building that may be a little potential parking pay to park by a local who has it as a property. So but it's only 8 to 12, but just wanted to give you a heads up. It is right in the middle of downtown between those alleys, which will help with employees and other stuff too. So that's something that may come before the board here in the future.
well, and I might as well tell you with your segue, we've been having a troublesome time dealing with Truist Bank. We've had an issue, we have been for years, Truist Bank, and I still call it the Round Bank. What's the bank over by the library? I still call it the Round Bank, but, those lots, but Truist,
The old First Federal Building.
Truist, we have been trying for years, both banks, to come up with an agreement where after hours that we will ensure we have to lease at the parking price to try to do. We have been trying for years to secure that. The banks say, oh, we're public banks and we're parking, we don't mind it, and we don't have to do that. I've always been leery of that because things change. Well, with an incident of somebody falling in Truist Bank and stuff, the negotiations picked up with them to go forward. For some reason, we're having a lot of resistance from them. They keep wanting to do something for First Fridays, but not for the rest of the time. And I'm not concerned about First Fridays. I'm concerned about all the people who park to go to Currents, to go to the ice cream shop every day, every weekend, and I want that agreement. I've even got Mr. Salzman involved as of a week ago to try to get a hold of their attorney, and their attorney won't call Mr. Salzman back. The bank is talking about now hiring 711 parking, if you know 711 parking places and stuff, how they do it, and make it a charge for parking after hours things, where I'm saying, wait a second, the city is here, we've got a rate we pay other lots per lot, we're ready to negotiate a lease, put the insurance on it and go. if we don't get something back and forth with this bank, there's a possibility of losing that bank to pay parking. Why they don't think it's a disaster to take away the parking for the people, to be a community bank and then take away the park, I've told them it's a nightmare, and if I had money there, I'd probably pull my money out for them doing it. But they're not even talking with, so when you hear that come up, we are exhausted efforts, got attorneys trying to talk to their attorneys to try to do this, but there is the possibility that that lot might become pay. So you'll be hearing it because it's just intensified. And if you see 711 signs and after hours, use the app and it's so much an hour and stuff that you go, that could be on the horizon. So this last 2 weeks is when this up, so that's the perfect opportunity to talk about that one lot. We may have an issue if Truist Bank doesn't come around and want to work with the city to make it a city lot after hours.
And I also bank there, so I did hear about this about a little close to 2 months ago, but it was, the frustration seemed to have come more from the First Friday situation.
Well, somebody fell and they noticed them that they were going to sue the bank.
Yeah, and so, man, we have the money allocated so much each year. I think it's about $200,000 towards parking or trying to obtain parking. We need to do our best, and it might, we're going to pay a premium on it, but that's downtown, right in the center. So I don't know what I can do as a commissioner. I go there couple times a week and just hopefully have them contact city staff and the city attorney to work an agreement out. Well, we had a great verbal agreement for some time, but we understand, their exposure at times, and we need to lock it in as a result of us and try to get this deal done. It's too close to downtown. It's right in the center to, I don't want any other reason to detour residents or people to come to downtown, and $5-10 parking may sometimes be enough to do it. So I appreciate us just looking into try to resolve it. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other miscellaneous from any of the commissioners? Miscellaneous, go ahead.
Well, I want to add to this, since I've been the parking attendant for the last 5 First Fridays for the Truist Bank, it is, everybody comes in there. Ice cream, they come in there to pick up meat, they come in there, you name it, they're in there. And the issue is you can't, for 29 days out of the month, allow parking there with no restrictions, and then one day a month you decide to put restrictions in, because it's not just the parking there, they're parking also at the drive-through. So, and in this last week, the drive-through, somebody parked there and, I think it was Casey asked me, do you know who was parked there? I don't. And they were going to tow them, and they had him up on a lift, and then he had to have him drop down. So I don't know how you manage that, per se, without. Somebody has to oversee the parking there, whether it be the city or this, I heard also about them, having this 7-Eleven parking coming in next month where I won't be there. So
Is it next month they're going to do that?
that's what I heard. It was next month that they, because I know that the merchants did not want us to be representing, it's a real hassle, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. But who's going to, is it the bank that's going to pay for them, or is it the Merchants Association?
No, this is a outside source that is going to control the parking there, period.
Yeah, the merchants won't have to worry because the people park there, they're going to pay a fee and they're going to park
Right.
there. They're going to go on the app, pay $5 or whatever it is,
Right.
$2
The
an
bank,
hour.
the money's
just
going
like
to the bank, right?
Yes, it's a revenue source for the bank.
Right. It'll be a revenue
But
source.
just let you know, I've offered a revenue source from the city because we got money put away to do that stuff. And I'm trying to get a negotiation, but I can't get, I don't know if Salzman's gonna have to drive over there to the lawyer's office to talk to us and get going. Because they're not answering his calls. So,
But some of the issue is also the bank has no signage there to,
and that's the problem. We've told them with the drive-through and everything else, they don't have the proper signage to do that.
so, that's some of the issue because people they come in there and they go, there's no signs. You know, why are you here today? Just because it's First Friday? Yeah, but, you know, it makes it a problem. And I would like to see that remain a city parking area, but, you know, if they're not going to respond, you know, what do you do? The person that did do the suit is no longer allowed at any of the merchant functions as well.
Right, and it was a vendor, and they weren't supposed to be parking there anyway. It's against the rules of the vendor parking. That was not vendor parking. He wasn't supposed to be parking there for the event. He violated the rules and parked there.
Yes. But they all come, I'm dropping off, I'm just be 2 seconds. It's, you know, you're playing cat and mouse with everybody, you know, so it's a difficult situation, you know, but.
Last call on miscellaneous.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Since we're talking parking, you know, I notice on First Friday, I see people parked all the way out here in front of the city hall. They use our city parking spots. You know, I measured it from from right outside on Pine, Pine, all the way down to Tarpon Avenue, 3/10 of a mile. I walked Tarpon Avenue here, look, I'm running. And it took 5 minutes and just under 30 seconds, and about the same going back. That's not a long way to walk. It's not. And most places, if you go to, you know, Clearwater, St. Pete, wherever you go, you walk a couple blocks, right? It's not the end of the world. You know, we got this referendum on that property out on that Stammes property. I went out with Bob Robertson. We went across the street over to the property across the street at the sewer plant. We use a great deal of that for storage of equipment. We had there, you know, they do servicing of cars there. They have, there was a lot of police cars being worked on, all kinds of stuff. I haven't, you know, done any rendering on that, but if we get this property out on the Stammes property and we moved a great deal of our usage of vehicle maintenance out there, you would free up, I would guess maybe 100 parking spaces. I mean, it's a lot. Because if you go look at an aerial map of how much of that property across the street is being used by the storage of equipment. And if we use that property out there, we could, and that would be, and it's accessible to downtown, and it's probably equally as accessible to the sponge docks. And, you know, we could steer people to go park there. So, you know, if we think outside the box, this property out there that we might be getting
There's a lot of
could
opportunity.
free up some spaces here in town that we could use for parking. And maybe we get, you know, a big number of parking spaces. And again, it's a 5-minute walk to downtown. So, just saying.
Vice Mayor Kulyana.
Yes, I'm gonna start with my wish list, and I'd like, as we first talk about the Christmas lights, please let them know that, you know, there's one commissioner who drives around town and looks at the Christmas lights 4 times a week when they're up, and I just think we can get more for our buck. Got to sort of tell them, hey, we're not getting as much of those big decorations. Maybe they can give us a discount on those 3 trees that they give us. They come, you know, several $1,000s, you know, I just think, but I'd like to see some bigger pieces around Spring Bayou, and not some of the lower end ones that I think they give us. You know, if they're doing this co-op thing with all the other cities, you know, we're just as important, and our area is just as beautiful. I'd hopefully like to see, I know we have that electrical issue at times, so it's tough, but get some more high school lights out there and really light up Spring Bayou. It's a cool area, and I'm all about bringing as much holiday cheer to the community as we can. I think if we just, you know, stay on them a little bit and let them know, you know, some board members wanting to get more, I think we can get it done.
I've got all those notes down, and that's what we're going to be broaching when we meet with them.
Please. And then as far as at some point, not this year, and as there's more economic development between the sponge docks and the downtown. I noticed one time in downtown Newport Richey, they have this golf cart shuttle service, and they're like 6 to 8 people in the golf carts, and they can bring them back and forth. And I just think that's something we need to consider in the future as we try to create that corridor to connect the two. It can be done, and I think it will go a long ways as the sponge docks start building up again. As far as this is, and I talked to Ms. Lemons about it at the last meeting, and I think I've spoken to you a little bit. This is going towards cultural services and advertising and could be economic development. I requested to hopefully create a budget for some advertising that is geared towards more of the cultural and the heritage of the regional area in Tampa Bay. And that's really tied towards our community. And one example I did bring up was Greek Voice TV. There are certain events, and I want to bring it up like this. You know, Tarpon Springs is a cultural and a heritage, melting pot. And we have traditions that not only represent this community, but a lot of the culture and the heritage of the Tampa Bay area that's derived from this community. And if we could put some advertising, and it doesn't got to be a lot, but towards one of these organizations like Mr. Aguilato's Greek Voice TV, for certain events, certain cultural heritage events to help advertise and get the word out, like Hope Day, like Ohi Day. These events are great, and a lot of the old other cultural events that we have in our community. But if we don't have a lot of those people from the area slowly coming in and being part of it, the perspective of that culture, is a little bit dimmed down. And so I would really like to help put some money to the side in cultural services to reach out to some of these advertising, broadcasting channels to reach the Tampa Bay, Greek community, regional, whatever. There's more than just Greeks who watch that channel, but it will help drive in more of a cultural and heritage group of people to help with the tourists and local residents who come to these events. And so that's why I want to really tie it in. There's Tarpon Springs, but there's also a lot of the heritage and culture around the Tampa Bay region that I think we can help bring in that cultural services, and Miss Lemons does a great job in advertising to tourists at the different airports, the different highways with the billboards. But I'd really like to hit that type of market too, because without them being a part of these events, the atmosphere is just a little bit not as the same. And I think some of you understand what I'm trying to say. And so please consider that.
Okay.
The on-call, as we discussed, please look at trying to increase it for those employees. And, Mr. Rudd actually asked me a question, what he would like to see done, when he got in office or 3 years. And one of the answers I gave him was, let's get these employee salaries up, competitive with the nearby municipalities. And, that way we're comparable and we're not just that stepping stone. So I'm hoping here in the near future we can have a third-party consultant for employee pay study. That way we're not fixing, just putting Band-Aids on situations, and we can help get some a better view from a third party looking at this for a plan. I did want to bring up a Rigor organization. I'm not sure if the board's aware of it yet. Potentially bring it up in the August 20th meeting, and Mark doesn't even know I'm about to bring it up. But the water conveyance department, they do a lot of the meter repairs and water connection. I think there's about 22 employees or so that could benefit from a reorg, and I'd like this board to maybe even consider just one grade pay increase. You know, there was a study, it's somewhat, and I know the budgets are tight, but now's the time for the reorgs. And we'd really be putting a Band-Aid on another situation, but these are everyday people on the ground moving around that really take care of some of the, you know, water and sewer utilities that help keep the city going and bringing in funds. So those are everyday people, and I'd like for this board to consider looking at a reorg of just a smaller increase as a grade pay, and, you know, for that department at least, because that's really one of the only departments I know about potentially needing a reorg, other than what's been put into the budget so far. So I just wanted to bring that up as well. What do you think, Mark?
Well, that leads me in.
I have to put it on.
They've probably been looked at, but they're also one that they've gone through the process of the last years, and I believe they've got some, which I'll look at and stuff, but I believe what we do every year, and that leads me in because my miscellaneous is on the salary study and stuff. So what you're gonna see probably tomorrow when we finalize it, I had a committee. The committee consisted of Paul Smith, Scott Young, and Jay Niffen, that took all the initial requests. I went through them, I forwarded them to them. They looked at it. We used two older studies now, the Clearwater, which the Clearwater one doesn't even, it's so outlandish, nobody in the county, the way they did it outprices everybody in the county. So that's not, the Dunedin one's a little better to look at that we've used. So we tried to find in that area the places that were the lowest, and some of them are lower positions, but we've done a lot at the lower end. So what you're gonna see tomorrow is after we approve it, hopefully in our meeting all morning, is what we're bringing before the budget advisory first next Thursday. We want it to them and to you Friday, so you've got the weekend. Now, you won't deal with it until the 20th, but I want you to see it because I want next week the ability for you to meet either with the committee or each of the department heads that have the increases on to explain the processes of how we got there and how we did that before the 20th meeting. So I'm going to offer that up. Also, you can talk about, get with Tommy Kiger and the committee and talk about what are the plans for this. We have done a 4-year plan. We've methodically taken the most needy groups, and then we know, okay, you're up next year, and then you're up next year. And we're at probably one of the final years up before we have to go back because now we're over here to done. But the important thing that we're waiting for is Largo has spent a lot of money and have an extensive study that's coming out as we speak. The Largo study will be the more current than the Clearwater and Dunedin. It'll be a real good base for us to look at and see where we need to go for what supplemental study that we could do at probably a lot less cost to kind of take that study and the aspects that maybe we want to see more for our people, and then do that analysis that you say when that thing's out for this year, and then set our course for the new city manager, next budget comes, who is the first line of ones? And probably water is going to be that first line. Some of those, especially the license function of water conveyance, and we'll be able with that study and whatever supplement we need to line out where we're going the next year so we don't do all these at once. So that process is starting, you're gonna see it, and then we'll have a discussion on it. Hopefully you'll have a discussion next week with the department heads and the committee on that. We'll talk about it August 20th to finalize. So that's why it's important for us to get it out tomorrow so everybody has enough. And then the budget advisory city is going to see it Thursday at 2:00. They'll see it and have all the departments had to explain it.
So the August 20th meeting will be, I guess I should ask, what would you be expecting out of us for that meeting?
Well, that has to be by resolution. So while it's not in the budget process because our budget workshops, because it has to be done for the salary change, that has to be done by resolution. So what you'd be in essence be doing is passing the resolution for the budget on the salary changes, grades.
And then we'll see the budget, was it the first week of September or
Yes.
something like that?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
But that's the one thing in the budget process that has to be done by resolution. That's why that's why you see it. Then, of course, we always wait to the end because we're trying to look at all the other places. What are they doing? What are they do? We can't do this at the beginning of the budget process because we don't know where the other city's going, which is going to gauge what's our raise, what's our grades and stuff. So people ask, why do you wait to the end? Well, we have to see what's going on in the county because we do it early, we could get bypassed and stuff. So that's the only process you haven't seen in the budget, but you'll see it starting tomorrow. So there's plenty of time for the 20th.
Yeah, that's good.
No,
Good
thank you
approach.
thank you for
sure.
bringing that up, Mark. That way we can see what's
Yes.
planned in the future and
Yes.
just have a good idea.
Okay.
I'm happy that we're putting reserves, increasing our reserves again. And, this is I'm not gonna lie, I went to, obviously I was on vacation. And when I would ask, people to ask me about government and supposedly, there's one former mayor out there saying that we're just in a financial disarray since he left. And so I'd like Mr. Ron Herring to come up here and tell us that we're not in that. It seems like we're, doing a good job balancing our books each year and focusing on our projects. And this little message that's been going around, I just would like to get cleared up. Thank you.
If you're talking about the general fund, we still have a solid general fund unassigned fund balance. We're right at 26, 27%. Our fund balance policy is a minimum of 20%. So at 26, 27%, we're very solid. There's a lot of cities that have a smaller percentage of fund balance. So 26, 27% is solid. We want to try to increase it as it's based on expenditures. That's why we started talking about, and in this current fiscal year, we've set aside, 1% to increase it, so bring it up to about 27, 28%. And in the budget we're working on now, we're setting aside money for another 1%. So to gradually try to increase it.
Thank you, sir. And just thank you for putting it on the
And let me
record,
do it in my
clarifying it.
layman's term. I'll put our budget up and what we get done for our budget, where we're standing, where we are, our debt service against anybody in Pinellas County. We are in great shape now. There are serious problems that doesn't necessarily get out in the press on a lot of other cities in this county and issues and things not fun. But I can tell you, and you know me, I don't stay little that I can't back up if somebody challenges me. But our budget is as good a shape of any city in this county.
I'm just happy we talked about it and got on the record, so thank you.
Commissioner Kulianis.
Yeah, just to take that one step further, we have good reserves. We pay all of our bills. We are planning for the future. And we're in balance. There's nothing more you can say.
And double the projects going on that's ever gone on in the city
Yeah, we
that are
got a lot
progressing
of
through the
projects.
process.
And I go back to, I'm not gonna harp on my happiness moment, but
Please.
we're doing well. And now, look, we're looking to, when I was listing all the things, hospital, we have university, we got parks, we got golf course, you show me a city of 26,000 people that has as many services, our own police department, our own fire department, and we pay for it all. And we don't overtax our residents. Compare us to everyone else, we're in good shape. So, I don't know where those rumors are going, but they're unfounded.
Thank you.
So,
So I'm going to try to make money for us, not spend money for us, because that's all I heard was spending money. So a lot of the calls I get are for locals that want to come in to spend money in Tarpon Springs in the sponge docks, and they're forced to pay money to park for a 5-minute just pickup. So I would like to see that we can do something for our residents, to make it somewhat, whether it be a scanner or some sort of code reader so that they can pull in and pull out for a discount price so that we're not hitting them, because they're not staying all day long. And I understand, I know where to park, so it doesn't affect me, but there's a lot of people that just want to be able to park. So I think that's something we need to consider as a board. I know it's privately owned, but there's ways to negotiate. I am an advocate for charging for Sunset Beach to go in and out if you are an outsider. If you were a part of the Tarpon taxpayer, not, but people pay for Fred Howard Park. So all the overage of people that don't want to pay at Fred Howard Park come and use our Sunset Beach, and it's ours to clean up and maintain and everything else. So I would like to see a nominal charge there, even if it's just parking to get in. And then we can change it as need be. Same thing would go for the Splash Park. We have, just charge for parking. And, people want to park somewhere else and walk in. I mean, you can't stop it, but it'll restrict it to some degree. And the biggest thing that I run into every summer mostly is upping the fines for people boat launching and not, and just parking all around the fruit section. And, I believe the price of fine is $25, and the consensus is that anyone that parks just says it's worth the $25 if they get the ticket. If we up the ticket to something that's a little different, where it's more substantial, they may then decide to get a boat registration, a parking sticker. As I drive around, I notice that a lot of people do not have the sticker because they're not really worried. So they're hindering the residents there. They're hindering traffic from going through. They're hindering the fire department from going through. So I think those are things that we need to look at moving forward. So these are all income producing, and those are my kind of wish list. And it's not unheard of. I mean, you go into Dunedin, they have paid parking. I'm not looking to do that, but that could come someday too, where we have, people just not parking on Tarpon Avenue all day long. It's a way to move traffic. You can have a 2-hour meter. You don't have to have a 15-minute meter. So, you can go out, have a lunch, and, just keep moving. I also did take a tour just recently of the Cohatch building. It's coming along beautifully, and I know that they've gotten themselves parking as well. So there's not going to be any issues with that. And I look forward to another successful business coming in and making, in the 11 years I'm here, I've seen Tarpon Avenue change drastically from point A to point B. I'm very impressed with the way it is. I'm also in agreement, and I've brought this up a number of times, and I agree with the Vice Mayor as far as in having some sort of autonomous vehicle, maybe going up and down Safford, bringing people from the Sponge Docks to the downtown. I know they do it for Wine Walk, but it's not an autonomous vehicle. It's a, trolley, and it moves people back and forth. Maybe we could do this just on the weekends. I don't know. But during the weekday, I can understand it may not be as advantageous to do, but on the weekdays, the weekends, I'm sorry, it's a value. It allows people more flexibility. So these are all things that I'd like to look at going into this new year. And I believe them to be all money-making ideas, so that's the route I want to go. I mean, I've heard everybody want to spend, we all want the new golf building, and we want this and we want that, but you need to be able to pay for it. And I know Ron's pockets are starting to get a little empty there, so we need to make sure we fill his pockets a little bit. You okay with that?
It might not be good if it's in my pocket, but yeah, I'm good with it.
It's only a temporary loan,
Okay.
you know what I mean?
It's just a
You're
holding.
gonna have to
It's a
distribute,
placeholder.
yes. So that's all I have.
Frank, you have anything? The things that mentioned as far as the connecting the downtown with the Sponge Docks is still a work in progress, just trying to find the right recipe. We had that near miss with that autonomous, remember that?
Until they hit somebody in Dunedin.
Until the autonomous thing ran over somebody, and then they ended that. And then we checked with the Jolly Trolley, which they had two sizes of Jolly Trolleys. They've got the big one, and then they told us it was a small one, but it's really a medium, which is almost as large as the large one. If they had a smaller version of that, that is the solution. And perhaps, I don't know, through Ford Pinellas, right? Is that through Ford Pinellas?
Yeah.
They do the, maybe.
And we're still looking. There's another ride service that we're looking. I mean, this is, remind, there's a lot of things like I've been told, parking downtown and the docks forever. Finding this transportation is one of my forever projects that I got to pass over to Mr. Rudd. Said, this is one of our, we're always looking at this and stuff. And we've looked at several. One, we were close with one, and then it has issues and stuff. We've got another one I know that we're looking at, and we're looking at the test of, I forget what city it's in now, but that is a continuous thing we're looking at. It may just start off a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then see how it works and expand. But we are looking, even to bring in a 6-month trial, a year trial. We're looking for the right one to do that. So that is a constant process of us trying to do that and bring them in and
You know, the merchants do that for the wine walk, the Jolly Trolley for connecting people from the sponge docks and dropping them off, and then they just continually loop.
we
them.
both agree with the type of vehicle, the size of the vehicle,
It's
that
too
would be
big.
perfect.
Yeah,
That
it's
one's
too
too.
big, yeah. Okay. All good ideas, and the only thing I'm going to say is you just have to keep at it, because if you don't keep at it, there's so much going on, it's out of sight, out of mind sort of thing. So I want to ask you, do you have anything, the staff or anything?
That's all.
Okay, meeting adjourned at 8:33.